Hello, innovators. I'm Todd Wyant, and welcome to the Bridging the Gap podcast presented by Applied Software Great Tech Group. You're invited to join our conversation to model the future of construction innovation and the digital transformation adventure of this great industry. My guest today is Cian Brennan. He's the CEO of Quantum Contract Solutions. He spent almost 2 decades on the client side of construction. Over this time, he saw hundreds and hundreds of construction companies being bullied contractually, losing money, and even going out of business. In 2019, after becoming deeply concerned with the state of the industry and having inside knowledge of how clients manage contracts, he launched his own company. Cian has won a 40 Under 40 award, a Best of Business Innovation award, and an Outstanding Growth, and was a finalist for Entrepreneur of the Year in the CEO magazine and Business News. Finally, he's also the host of Construction Secrets podcast. Welcome to the show, Cian.
Thanks, Todd. Really nice to be here. I think you guys won Construction Podcast of the Year too, as well, right? So that's cool.
That's right. Yeah, we won that a couple years ago, and we like to say that we're still the reigning champs in it because there hasn't been that competition has not happened since the last year we won. So nobody has has dethroned us technically. So
that's it. Fantastic. That's cool.
Right? Well, how did you get into the construction industry to begin with?
Oh, wow. So my grandfather was in the construction industry. He had a contracting business. And one of the kind of important things I remember in my grandmother's house after my granddad died, she had this beautiful framed newspaper article of the day he died, and it said the man who built Galway, and Galway's the west of Ireland, where I'm from, and I remember reading that as a kid and thinking, yeah, I'd really like to get into construction, and things went a little bit different. So I kind of wanted to emulate him, but the advice I was given was don't. That the contracting side, GC side, subcontractor side is very difficult. You're better off going the client side. So that's the path I went down. I went client side, university, all of that good stuff. And yeah, that's how it all began.
That's awesome. Is there something that you wish you would have known at the beginning of the career?
Yeah, actually, I have a bit of a view on this, and I put a tweet out about it the other day. Is that when you're in your 20s, really should be learning, not earning. And client side does tend to pay better, but you don't get exposed to really interesting conversations and meetings when you're in your 20s and you're working for a larger organization. You're pigeonholed into this sort of one area and this one thing that you do, and obviously you get good at that one thing. But when you're contractor side, you very quickly get into meetings where you're discussing contracts, you're discussing budgets, you're making negotiations. And so from an experience point of view, you would have learned fivefold if you were contractor side. You would have been exposed to a lot more of the financial game of construction. And so I think if I was to go back, I think to learn more, I would have gone contractor side earlier, because yeah, you get so much more exposure at a much younger age because you have to, right? Resources dictate that you get involved in these things, which is great.
Cian, based on kind of your perspective of the industry of all the different areas that you've gotten to partake in, what do you think is the biggest opportunity ahead for construction this year?
Opportunity in general. I mean,
yeah,
it's really hard not to look past AI, right? It's I think where construction is going now and where service business and different types of businesses, the challenge that they're facing is that AI is without a doubt here, and you can choose to be an AI enabled company, or you can maybe risk being replaced pretty in the near future. And so when I'm looking at how AI will impact the construction industry, I'm not of the opinion that people are going to be replaced. I think eventually, of course, they will. But I think if you're the type of company that wants to innovate and down the line, when people are looking at different services and different construction services, they're still going to want to come to you, provided that you have AI enabled in the back end to be able to deliver a better product. They're not going to want to incorporate like a GC, for example, and they're not going to want to do the contracts like AI stuff themselves. They'd rather have a third party who's done all the prompts, done all of the investigation, knows how to manage it. That's a valuable business in the future for people, and that's where I think the industry is going in all different facets. So you can choose to be AI enabled or choose not to. And as a company, we've just added it to our culture that we are an AI enabled company. And I've challenged the team this week to see if they could replace themselves with AI, what they could, what tools that they can use. So that's the plan for this week. So next week's team meeting, we're going to discuss what platforms that they have been able to make their jobs more efficient.
Yeah, that's a really interesting thought experiment. What was the reaction to when you rolled it out?
I think it was quite interesting. I thought I'd have to do this big sell to people that the AI is super important, and but everyone was like, yeah, 100%. We need to be the type of people that are using it, and so yeah, it was taken on really, really well, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's been fascinating. Obviously, Chat GPT has been everywhere. You can't go anywhere without somebody saying something about it. But that whole concept is super fascinating, and it's clearly the way everything is moving. So you got to be willing to risk it and kind of jump out there and figure it out early, because other people are going to be doing that.
Yeah, we're using ChatGPT every day now. So even just in, so obviously copy, marketing, and that sort of stuff, it definitely helps just very quickly give you ideas and to rewrite stuff for you. But also in our customer delivery, when we're talking about, when one of our clients sends in a contract to be reviewed, for example, we respond letting them know that we've received it. So you can respond with a generic, your contract has been received, we're working on it in due course, or something boring like that.
Right.
But now we respond, every single one is something different. We just run it through ChatGPT to get the same thing but slightly different. So it comes across a bit more personable, and it comes across a bit more interesting. Just little things like that.
I love that. So you brought up contracts. It's a big hot button area in construction. Why do you think construction contracts in particularly are so complex and contentious?
Well, they aren't. Not all of them are, right? But the big problem is 26% is the figure, the latest figure, of all insolvencies come from the construction industry. And so the last quarter, as our time of speaking now, Todd, was the highest insolvency rate since 2008. Okay, so construction companies are going out of business, and there's a couple of different reasons for it, right? So I guess the main reasons that it's happening is a lot of people are in lump sum contracts, fixed price contracts, and the prices have gone insane, and they can't get people, and they can't deliver on their projects. Okay, cash flow gets very, very tight. They don't get paid, and they end up going out of business. That's kind of why. But if you go one step further, is the contracts that they've signed have not allowed for that to change. Okay, so typically what happens in the construction industry, you've got the owner of the thing, right? So it could be the government, could be developer, oil and gas company, mining company, whoever wants to build the end project is the top of the food chain. Then you've got your GCs, and with your GCs, there's going to be a contract between your GC and the owner. And that contract, both of those guys are going to have lawyers, are going to have contracts people on both sides, and they're going to negotiate a contract that they believe is fair. Now, that tier one, that GC, he actually doesn't do any work. Okay, he subcontracts out all of the work. So really, they're actually a finance company. If you think about how they actually make money, so the Turners of the world, those type of guys, they might do some construction, but more often than not, they do absolutely nothing. And so they make money between the delta between how much they get paid by the owner, the loan that they get from the bank, and how much they pay their subcontractors. That's their business model. And so it's very important to remember that, because if things are running out cost-wise, right, they're going to try and recoup their costs. But what they do is with their contracts down the way, when they're talking, when they're negotiating contracts with the subcontractors, they issue contracts that are far, far, far more riskier and aggressive than the one that they've signed. And the reason is a risk arbitrage to keep the risk down at that tier 2 subcontractor level. So if anything happens, it doesn't affect them getting paid up the line. Okay, so you understand why they do it, right? I guess if
Sure.
but they're not the big bad companies. But if you were in that position, you probably would do the same thing. Okay, maybe
Right.
a bit nicer. Okay, so what happens is then the subcontractors typically are smaller companies, right? They're not, they don't have teams of lawyers in house, and so they don't have the expertise or the people to understand what's in the contracts, and then they sign really bad contracts. They sign, a lot of times they just sign them as is or negotiate one or two things, thinking that they're not able to negotiate a contract, and then to quote, well, it's not necessarily quote, but Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett, very, very, very famous people, but they talk about the quote is Keith Cunningham, right? Is very good book called The Road Less Stupid. And all three of those guys talk about the downside, right? So most people can be successful, right? It's how long can you keep going up without a huge down, right? And construction's the same. So if you look at, if you have the philosophy, and the best construction companies in the business do, if you have the philosophy that I'm happy to take a reasonable margin with low risk, okay? So if something goes wrong, it's just a blip, and I still continue my trend of growth upwards. Whereas if you take on, for example, a very high margin and a lot of risk in your contract, and that's fine if that's your strategy, but then if something happens, the downside is huge, and the downside could lead to you going out of business and losing a lot of money. And so when you sign a better contract and you invest your time in understanding contracts and what's important, that's where you get that lower risk, you get those little blips, and over time, it's so much more powerful. Does that make sense?
So how should, yeah, totally. So how should subcontractors then think about going into negotiation to really work on those more favorable terms? Because it's easy to think that they're, the little guy David fighting the big bad Goliath.
Yeah, but that's a really good point. You can use that to your advantage. I'll talk about that in a second. But the first thing that construction companies need to understand is, one, is the game of construction, the business of construction is two parts. You construct something, deliver something, whatever it is, but you also, there's a contractual side to get paid for it. So more often than not, Todd, all of these guys are experts. You could give them a complex architectural engineering drawing, and they have navigated, they understand it inside and out, right? What you also need to be able to, and that you need to be able to do, is get a document that's been written by a lawyer, right, aka a contract, and also interpret that as well. You don't need to be a lawyer to interpret a contract. It's the same as way you don't need to be an architect or engineer to interpret drawings. You need to so you need to get educated on what means what. It's very, very important. And so the way to look at these things, and this is the reality from being on the other side of the fence, is that they give you their worst contract expecting you to negotiate. And so if 5 people are bidding for a project and only 4 people try to negotiate the terms of the contract and 1 doesn't, and if that 1 is you, right, they don't look at you and think, hey, this guy's really easy to deal with. They think of you as, oof, this guy's pretty green. Why hasn't he, we're a bit concerned now, and they don't have the confidence that you can do the job. Okay, so it actually works against you. And so really it's just as a company, and I'm only saying this because it gives you an example as to what you can get across the line. If we get 82% of what we put forward across the line, So the whole Wayne Gretzky thing, you don't ask, you don't get shots, you don't take, you don't score, right? So the game is they're giving you their worst contract. They have backup clauses for every single thing, and they just go, okay, well, you don't agree to that one, we'll give you the backup one, right? And you can easily reduce your risk. That's the game, right? So the game has been played whether you want to play it or not, basically.
Yeah, nice. So what can subcontractors do as kind of a first step if they want to be proactive in the discussion?
Okay, so when you're being asked to tender to bid, they will actually say, you have to put forward your technical clarifications, and then you have to put forward your commercial clarifications. And so and that's at bid stage, right? A lot of people just wait until they've just been issued a contract to sign, and if that's the case, well, that's fine too. But ideally, you want to do it at bid stage, and then you just put forward what you don't agree in the contract. That's the starting point. Okay. And even to go back a step, if you wanted to sit down with insurance company, or once you understand the contract, come up with a set of commercial principles for your company to say, we don't sign up to X, Y, and Z, right? And then as part of your bids, you can just put in that document saying, hey, our bid is based on the acceptance of these commercial principles.
Nice. What pitfalls should contractors be kind of on the lookout to avoid that are kind of the common mistakes that they might make?
Okay. Well, one is, so payment terms are always tricky, right? So give an example of, first of all, you want to have, 30 calendar days, 20 business days is probably about standard, depending on the size of the company you are, and what you're doing. But if you actually read the clause on payment terms, right, and let's just say it says 30 calendar days end of month, right? And you're like, okay, that seems okay. But if you read the clause, it might say something like, okay, you have to submit your payment application on the 28th of month one. So you submit it on 28th of month one. They review your payment application on the 3rd of month two. They go, yeah, that's all good. Please submit your invoice. Right, here's a payment certificate. Please submit your invoice against this payment certificate. So you do that on the 5th of month two, say. Then you have to wait all the way until the end of that month, because it's end of month, and then they add 30 days. So in actual fact, you are signing up to 50, 60-day payment terms. It's those little things where the devil is in the detail that you need to look out for. Another one is termination clauses. A lot of the termination clauses will be one way, so they'll have all the different ways that they can terminate you, but you can't necessarily terminate them. And so you really need to be able to terminate your client if for example, they don't pay you. But you don't want to be in a situation where you have to keep working even though they haven't paid you, and you're like, are they going to pay me? And this is when companies are going insolvent. This is when this comes in, right? You're like, they haven't paid me last month. Are they going to pay me this month? And then you're in that terrible scenario where you're going to have to keep working.
Yeah, take some of the guesswork out by looking at those details. That's important. Yeah, absolutely. So I saw a fun expression that I wanted to ask you about. It's the squeaky bum time in construction. What is that?
So squeaky bum time. So there was a famous football manager in the UK for Manchester United. His name was Sir Alex Ferguson. He was like, one of the best guys. He was a manager for like 30 years, won everything. And he coined that phrase called squeaky bum time. And what he was referring to was the final quarter of a football game where people are sitting in the plastic seats in the stadium and they're starting to shuffle around, right? It's getting a bit nervous, and the squeaky bums, right? Because they're moving around in the seats. And what he was saying was that's the championship quarter. That's when things matter. And in construction, from a very, very high level, if you take that approach, that the final quarter of a construction project is where everything kicks off, is where all of the disputes are. More often than not, you'll never be hit with liquidated damages, actually. In fact, what will happen is they'll say, hey, you're delayed 20, 30 days. We're going to offset that against your final payment claim. And then you go, whoa, I don't agree to that. And then you eventually come to a settlement. Okay, but settlement much lower than you want it to be at, right? A lot of these big companies bring in closeout teams, so the relationship that you had with your opposing PM is gone. He's left. A lot of times PMs move on themselves because they're coming to an end of a project. Their job is about to be over. So if they get a job somewhere else on a 3-year project, they're going to move to there. So everything happens in that final quarter. And so all you need to do contractually really is prepare yourself for that final quarter. And remember that the company that you're dealing with is a finance company. If they're looking at costs, they're going to be like, we need to save costs. Best way to do it is to, look and see which guys haven't complied contractually. Okay, we're not paying you. You didn't submit your notice for your change order. You didn't submit your notice for EOT. Therefore, we're not paying you. Okay, that's what they want to do to save money. So if you're the type of company that have been submitting your notices, your EOTs, your variations, been on top of your paperwork the whole way through, when it gets to squeaky bum time, they look at you and go, this guy is sorted, right? We'll go after somebody else. And contractually, and this is a bit of a negative for our company really, is that when things are going well, right, success looks like silence. Because when you've signed a contract that has way less risk in it, nothing happens. Right, like the risk, it's like the only it's like taking vitamins and eating healthy, right? So you take vitamins and eat healthy, and you kind of just feel normal. It's baseline, right? It's only when you start eating junk food and you go off that you start feeling bad. You're like, oh, I just want to get back onto eating healthy. That's kind of the analogy, right? And it's the same in that post-award phase, where if you're doing things right, your change orders are being approved, you're getting your EOTs across the line, you're getting paid, and you're not having disputes, and it just all works. That's why success looks like silence in the contractual world. And the biggest and best construction companies have teams of contracts people in their businesses for a reason, right? If you just from a thought experiment, if you are a bigger construction company, you will have an in-house lawyer in your headquarters to negotiate your contracts. So that we're talking 250 grand a year type of a person. Then you're going to have a contracts administrator, quantity surveyor, or contracts manager on site. Same, it's going to be 200 grand a year, right? Or maybe 150 depending on skill set. And then you might have a dispute guy, or maybe the lawyer is a dispute guy. But we're still talking almost 400 grand, 450 grand per project on only contracts, right? And so I'm not telling subcontractors that you need to do that. I'm just telling you that the big companies are willing to spend that amount of money on every project for a reason. And the reason is that's where the money is. That's where you get paid, where you don't get paid. That's where things happen.
Yeah. I love the illustration that you pulled out there too with the vitamins, because I think that applies in general across construction. Everybody loves to tell the war stories of when everything went wrong, but very seldom, or not in the an equal percentage, do you tell the stories of when everything went right and it was a really smooth project. People tend to tell the horror stories instead of the success stories.
Yeah. It's very true. It's a different industry in that people are more worried about losing money, getting ripped off, than making lots of money and growing.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's very true. Is there a misconception around contracts that you wish people didn't believe?
Yes, and I'll give you a story to illustrate it. There was a noise wall contractor. I don't know what a noise wall contractor is, but noise walls are the walls on either side of the freeway, motorways, highways, that keep the sound in, basically. Because otherwise it'd just be super noisy and it'd annoy people. And so I was chatting to him, and he said, Cian, I don't want to negotiate. They're going to think I'm difficult. They're going to give the work to someone else. And I said to him, no, trust me, this is just a game, right? This is what they play. And so he goes, okay, Cian, look, I've got this new client. We've never worked with them. Why don't you take that one? And then my existing clients, I'll just do what I've been doing so far. I go, okay, a good deal. And so we tried to negotiate, we put forward, and their response after the whole thing was to him, thank you for your professionally worded departures or clarifications. The important thing, Todd, is it gave us confidence that you knew what you were doing.
Yeah.
And so what I would like subcontractors to think about is when the game is they're giving you their worst contract, right? The belief that if they'll think you're too difficult and just give the work to someone else is not true, right? It's in fact, if you don't try to negotiate, they think you don't know what you're doing. That's the key belief. Mm-hmm. And in the post-award phase, again, I'll tell you where you probably are right. If you become contractual halfway through a project or towards the end when stuff is going wrong, right, that you can definitely hurt relationships that way, right? Mm-hmm. Because people are like, whoa, they're getting contractual, it gets personal. And I'm sure most of your listeners have been involved in stuff like that. But if you start contractual, you start submitting your notices and you go, hey, well, the contract just says that we have to do that, so we're doing it. So you start off that way. They just look at you and go, oh, those guys are switched on. They're commercially savvy. They know what they're doing. That's the perception you get. Right. So just by being contractual, just by trying, you're going to sign a contract that's way less risky because that's the game. And in the post-award phase, just by submitting notices and doing what it tells you to do, doing the paperwork, essentially, you're going to reduce your risk in that final quarter. They're going to look at you and go, oh, they've got tons of paperwork in. Like we'll go after somebody else. And then you'll have that success looks like silence whole way through. That's what I want for you for you guys.
Nice. That makes a ton of sense. What do you see as the kind of the next step in evolution in the industrialization of construction?
Well, I do think it's that AI thing, and it's a thing about AI that's really interested me. And I guess this might answer your question as to the next step. So the step in front of us is just AI. So I think we all expected AI to replace blue collar workers, and strangely, it's not. It's replacing at the moment. It's replacing creative people with DALL-E, and so I can do all the different types of images, and obviously all the different copywriting, but now it's obviously definitely moving into more white collar, replacing white collar jobs, okay, because it can churn out lots of stuff. So that's kind of where we are now. And so the blue collar stuff actually didn't get replaced. I think most people, and the reason for that is it's machinery replaces blue collar workers. And so machinery is really, really expensive. And I think the next stage of our evolution is when the AI gets smart enough to be able to itself invent machinery to replace blue collar workers at a price. And it's that moment that I think is going to be the interesting thing, where we're like, okay, well, the AI is now smart enough to make its own inventions to profitably produce new equipment to construct things. And that moment, I think, is the moment where it just go berserk.
Yeah, that would be that's an interesting moment for sure. What how far out do you think that moment might be?
I don't know. Do you know what? Honestly, so how like since the internet came in, how quick have we advanced as a civilization, or well, how quickly have we degraded as a civilization? with some of this, there. Yeah, but you know what I mean, right? So it's I honestly, I just don't know what to say to that answer. But how much is the AI going to increase that exponential curve? I don't know. So it's a guess, but it's probably closer than we think. It's probably 5 or 10 years.
Yeah. I mean, the innovation growth over the last couple of decades is just insane. It's just straight up. That exponential growth is getting bigger and bigger every single year. It's pretty mind-boggling, especially here in construction.
It is, yeah, for sure in construction. But construction is a little bit behind as well as an industry. In comparison to, say, obviously tech itself, but like, automobiles and there's I think construction tends to have some trickle down effects from other industries, like day-to-day construction. Like there's obviously the advanced mining and oil and gas sort of stuff where there's pump a lot of money into it, and obviously there's a lot of advanced stuff there, like the self-driving trucks and all of that sort of cool stuff. But it's when do we see it on your regular construction site? So you go to a regular construction site these days, and you still see quite a lot of old equipment being used, and it's how long does it filter down to that level is probably the slow bit.
Yeah. Well, and to your point on the AI creating the machines, it's the cost is a huge barrier to really getting the tech on every single job site as well too, because the smaller contractors, they can't really afford all the equipment and the technology to really go full into it. So what does innovation mean to you?
Making the complex simple. So it's making the complex simple. So we have this phrase from looking at construction companies, we can see that the most successful construction companies are the companies that do one thing, right? They don't do lots of different services. They're a steel fabricator, they are whatever, a civil company or whatever. And I feel that those type of companies can innovate better because they have this circle feedback loop, because they only do one thing, right? Mm-hmm. They don't have all these different things going on. They don't also do X, Y, and Z, and also do X, Y, and they do just one thing. And so every time they get a complaint, they correct a complaint and they make their process simpler and better, and their delivery becomes better and better and better. Have you ever heard the Jeff Bezos's Amazon? He has I can't remember the quote, but basically the concept is about innovation. He goes, when Amazon first started, or even 3 or 4 years ago, the delivery time for stuff was 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. And the complaints would come in at, if something was over 2 weeks, people would complain. And then it became a week. If something was over a week, people would complain. And then it came down basically in the US, right? It's same day or next day, right? And if people don't get it same day or next day, people complain. And so the innovation has just been this series of complaints from 2 weeks to 1 day. And that is obviously the innovation of just getting better and better and better at the one thing and the one thing and the one thing. So for me, that's how to innovate, is to make your one thing simple, better, more and less complex, and just streamline the whole thing, getting better and better and better, innovating.
Yeah, for sure. I'm always amazed at Amazon. I've ordered some stuff and I get it in like a couple hours. Like, this is insane that you can get it this fast.
It is absolutely yeah. I remember actually I was working in the Middle East, and I was talking at that stage we hadn't been to America, and I was talking to this Texan guy, and he was just like, yeah man, if I order something from Amazon, it's delivered the same day. I'm like, the same day? It's like 2 weeks for me. Like, it's insane. I was like, oh wow, that's so cool. It's brilliant.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome. Well, how do people find out more information about you and all the stuff that you got going on and connect with you?
Yeah, so we kind of have a few different. So we got the podcast is basically me going over contractual, commercial things, all the mistakes and failures that subcontractors have made, and what to do instead. So just by listening to that, you'll become more contractually savvy. We have a website called constructionsecrets.io, which has loads of free training. So they're for all the people that just want to do it themselves or not big enough to work with a company like ours. And then if you're doing more than, say, 5 million in revenue per year, if you go to quantumcontractsolutions.com, there is a case study on there. You can check out how we've helped a lot of other construction companies. And if you're interested in jumping on a call, jump on a call and we'll chat then.
Awesome. Perfect. Well, final question for you. If I could give you all power and you could snap your fingers and innovate one thing in construction, what would you pick to innovate?
Oh, wow. I was, obviously the attraction is to have some funky, actual construction tool. But I think something with like the AI that could design AI engineering. I think if that could happen, AI engineering. So you get the architect, I want to build this beautiful building. right?
Mm-hmm.
Here's my crazy design, but more often than not, never works, right? From a structural point of view. And then you just feed it into the AI, and the AI just does this thing and gives you all of the drawings already done, and with perfect like engineering, that everything works, everything's stable in an instant. That would lead to construction projects being completed like in half the time. Because you think about the feed period, the front end engineering period, like that's huge. That's oftentimes 2 years before you even start construction. And imagine that's done in 2 minutes.
It'd be pretty cool.
It'd be pretty cool. Yeah,
I like it. All right, well, we're snapping and making it happen.
Yeah, that's cool. I think that would be good.
Cian, thanks so much for taking the time and joining the show.
Absolute pleasure to be here, Todd.